Welcome one, welcome all, welcome to another exciting episode of Tales of Citizens right here on the Sound Strategy Network. I am Bridger, and today we're covering, well, all the stuff that's leaked out of the avocados, which is an interesting phrase I never thought I would say in my entire life. But before we go there, let me introduce you to my co-hosts. As always, we have my... Oh, they're gone. Why are they gone?
And I'm back, just like that.
There we go. Oh, minimized means they're not there. So to my right, we have Gray. Welcome, sir.
Hello, hello.
And to my, well, that would be my, yes, you're, okay, this way we have
there's his
Calathulu.
left.
Welcome.
The one in the blue stripes would be Calathulu. Hello, all.
All right, so welcome, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the show. We do have the website, talesofshow.com, where you can find the show notes, and I will post these in the YouTube chat because I forgot to put them in the description, so there we go. So,
And now you have a very confused Hearts of Iron fan in the chat.
Hi, Michael, Mr. Hearts of Iron.
Yeah, I probably
this is not
do.
that game.
This is unfortunately, yes. I'm doing a lot of Hearts of Iron recently.
But let me ask the question while we're at it. Gray, any French ancestry?
Nah, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I dated a French girl once, and Bridger, she was nuts. You can have her. Take France this time. That was Michael's comment.
Oh! You had me thoroughly confused.
I always have you thoroughly confused. That's half the fun.
If it only, it's part of the drinking game. When Bridger is thoroughly confused by Calathulu's comment, I don't know.
Take a shot.
Take a shot? Is that what they do in drinking games?
I mean, I'll take a sip.
Is that
Shots
what the
of
cool
wine
kids
are
do?
basically pointless, but
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, Mr. Cultured over there doesn't like France with its wine.
well, I've got a California wine, so no, I don't. Actually, no, I take that back. I have a Washington State wine.
Yes.
Yes, it's kind of bitter, but that does describe Washington State's relationship to
It's a
California.
red, right?
Yes.
Yeah, let me guess. You probably got like a
of
Pinot.
those poor
Yeah.
Californians. All right, so we always start with a quick segment we call Life in the Verse. What's been going on in and out of Star Citizen with our hosts here. So, Gray, what have you been up to recently?
Overwatch. Been enjoying the new patch, actually.
And
New
the
hero is...
Sniper Healer.
Yeah, she's interesting. I'll say that. And the demoed hitboxes are hilarious, so you can kind of like whiff it this far past your friend's head, and it'll still heal them. It's amazing.
Well, isn't that true for Widowmaker as well? If you shoot like just off to the
yeah.
left a few times, you'll headshot. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All the hitboxes are like twice the size of the character.
I love Blizzard, but I'm not a fan of their net code at this point.
Yeah, it's got some issues, but the changes to ranked have been good. Getting rid of
good.
hero duplication was big. Not having teams of 5 divas and 1 Lucio is a pretty big improvement.
But I used to run the table as 6 Soldier 76s. I don't know.
See, I used to run the table against that with 6 Torbjorns.
Yeah, that would do it. That would definitely do it.
Yeah. Regardless, yeah, that's been entertaining.
I'm just
little bit of
happy that I
World-
finally got to play in competitive mode today because I'm so tired of playing in regular mode where it's like, hey, you managed to get to the end of this. Now we're going to switch sides and see if the other team can. Hey, look, they did too. You're both winners. I'm like, no, there has to be a winner. Damn it. That's not fair. Or
the game ends
we
after
both failed.
every half round.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
that's annoying.
Now-
Competitive mode is like, no, somebody's going to win. We're going to go into
Yeah.
sudden death until this is decided.
It will end with 1 winner and 1 loser. The hell with all of you. But let me ask here, if you get silenced or reported enough, can you still go into competitive mode?
Yes.
Okay, that's unfortunate. I like the Heroes of the Storm solution, and I also hate it.
Yeah,
I
I think
for
what
those,
they're doing
yeah.
is they're setting it up so if you leave a bunch, you can't be in competitive mode.
Well, there's that. That's there. Oh, in Overwatch.
In
you mean.
Overwatch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you get a bunch of lever status, you can't do competitive. But if you do a whole bunch of harassment, I think they just mute you.
Okay. Yeah. So in Heroes of the Storm, the solution is if you get reported a bunch of harassment or whatever, you can't go into the competitive mode until you've kind of worked through your mute. And the mute has this, like the first mute is like 30 minutes, the second one is 60, the third one's 180, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so on and so forth in the pattern development.
Does it tell you that you're muted, or does it do that nice
yes.
thing where
It is-
people...
Oh, you know.
You know.
That's too
and
bad.
all your teammates know. But here's the thing.
I kind
It
of like the
means
idea
that-
of the shadow ban,
Shadow
the way that
mute.
Reddit, the way that Reddit implements it. Like people don't
Yeah.
realize that
Yep.
nothing that they post is seeable except to them.
But the trouble is the quick match, the non-competitive scene, has become this toxic morass of basically assholes because they've all been shunted from the competitive league into a quick match. It's like, damn it. So I think Overwatch will go that way if competitive becomes a really big thing. But it's a good solution. It just means that I, who don't always want to jump in with Gazlowe and play competitively, will hate life for about 30 minutes.
I see.
Yeah.
All right, so Overwatch. What else is going on, Gray?
There's been some World of Warships, actually. That's been interesting.
I'll
I get back into that. I will download it now.
Yeah, they managed to add some interesting things with weather. That's been, she knows me, frantically typing. I'm trying to get into Twitch here. It's been interesting, actually, with World of Warships to see some of the new weather things and some of the new ships that they put in. But I feel like they're finally sort of hitting their stride with some of it. They're getting to a point where they can go back and refine. They're adding more armor surfaces to some of the vessels. So instead of like half of the ship being a weak point, you'll have a very small portion of that panel be a weak point because that's specifically where you can hit them.
Or it's also known as the battleship will never get a critical.
The battleships still nuke you. I mean, you really get wrecked.
They have big guns.
Died yesterday. 2 shots.
Yeah, it still feels, a little bit jumpy sometimes, but I think the game is improving. And they did a really nice thing this last week. They changed this last patch, they changed commander skills. I guess it was last week. And when they changed the commander skills, they said, well, people are going to want to retrain, probably. So what we're going to do is we're going to change all of the commander retrains to cost 10 gold, or 10 doubloons. Okay. And then we're going to give everybody in the game 100 doubloons. So if you liked how your commander was spec'd out, you got a free 100 doubloons. And if you didn't, even if it had nothing to do with the respec thing that they'd done, because all they really did was remove situational awareness and give it to everybody for free.
I.e. the armored warfare solution.
Now, everybody needs situational awareness, unfortunately. Yes. If you were happy with what they gave you instead, or even if you were happy with what they gave you instead, you could use this as a chance to respec your commander, which was pretty cool. I did that for a couple of mine to make them a little more specialized. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
And then Pokemon Go.
Now, what level are you in Pokemon Go? That's the question.
I am level 20.
20?
Just 20. That's it.
Okay.
It's a measure of how active outside you are, or how much you desire to catch them all. I'm not sure what that
more
is.
Tan.
It's actually more of a measure of how many Pokestops can you reach from where you work and where you eat lunch.
That's exactly what it is. I was so angry. I had one for 2 days within range of my desk at work, and I don't know if the GPS satellites moved or if they moved the stop a little bit, or they just contracted the range just a tiny bit, but it's just outside now. It's just outside of my desk range. But it's still inside of ingress range, so I have decided to play ingress instead.
Okay, well, there you go. That works. You can also try switching from high fidelity to GPS only.
Yep.
The way that the Google Location Services works, it's probably looking at the Wi-Fi strength, and if for whatever reason your network is a little bit weaker from one Wi-Fi, it might move your position a little bit.
Or your one network got a little bit stronger and it sucks you into that one.
Yep.
Actually, for me, I purposely flip my Wi-Fi on and off, and my character will wander back and forth a little bit.
Oh,
You're
man.
hatching eggs for free.
I get so many free, not eggs necessarily, because it just bounces from place to place, but because I park in a parking garage and it's very difficult for the GPS to pin down where I am, it'll say, "Oh, you're across the street at these 3 Pokestops. Oh, you're over here."
You're telling me that you're playing Pokemon Go sitting in a parking garage?
No, while I'm walking from my car to my work.
Okay.
So I park in the parking garage, and then for the 3 minutes I'm walking across the parking garage, my character's bouncing all over the place, and it usually stays in one spot long enough for me to grab the Pokestops.
Nice.
So it's like I get 3 of them on the way in because the GPS goes crazy. Anyway, so that's a thing. Calathulu, what have you been up to recently?
Well, Pokemon Go. In fact, I did a terrible, terrible thing to Pokemon Go. And Niantic is aware because I submitted it to them However, that said, they've never gotten back to me, but that is par for the course for this company. But I actually broke the APK and found a way that you can create a false transaction in that, put it in a VM and did some string dumps and use some of the Expose framework to figure out how I can do my call returns. Anyway, so yeah, I broke it thoroughly. But that said, on my legitimate account, where I'm not trying to see if I can destroy it, I am a level 24 Pokemon trainer and about 2,000 away from 25. So my daughter and I go for a run tonight and hatch 4 eggs. We should be able to. Get to the level 25. She'll be thrilled.
I'm level 12.
You're level 12?
I'm level 12.
You don't go outside or walk much, do you?
I have Eradicate.
You have a rat? I love Raticates. They're everywhere. Yeah, so down in SoCal, the one thing we find a lot of is, well, around my neighborhood, poison types, but I think that's just my toxic personality. And beyond that, we find like a bunch of Charmanders, and then there was a Dragonite
You've got a
nest.
Charmander nest? That is so cool. I didn't even know nests existed until we went to this park a little further away from where we normally are. What?
Yeah. No, you said you were very excited. And I was.
I only have one Charmander. It's the one I started with. I can't evolve him because I can't find any others.
That is the downside. Now, that said, we found I don't think it's a Charmander nest because the last patch they did in Pokemon Go, it moved the nests around a little bit, like which creature type occurred where. And the Oso Viejo Community Park is still all Charmander all the time.
Wow.
So I think it's just actual spawns. So that one's fun. So we'll go there and do a little jog around the park, that kind of thing. Other than that, Space Run Galaxy, which if you're a fan of tower defense games, Space Run is a lot of fun. It's not like the usual set up a wall and kill things as they come in. Instead, you're on a ship trying to deliver cargo. And so even before you start your tower defense game, the idea is you have to pick how much cargo you're going to carry. And if you can do it all in one mission, it's the most time efficient. But if you lose all the cargo, that sucks. So, and then, then things attack you and your defenses have to fight them off.
For those of you who have played board games, this is like Galaxy Trucker, the video game. You basically get to watch as your perfectly built ship starts to fall apart due to asteroids and or pirates. Like, I did not plan for that. Now, I've played the first one. How does the Galaxy version compare?
There is more to do, and it's more grindy. It would be the way I describe it. So they actually have this concept of a multiplayer where, so in different ports, there are different mechanics, different vendors, basically. So, if I have all the offensive materials in port A, but I have no person there who can turn them into weapons for me, I have to go to port B and take those materials with me. So the multiplayer aspect is I can then create a contract saying, bring these 6 materials from port A to port B, and I'll give you 5,000 credits for it. Yeah. So
you're creating a mission for another player to fulfill?
Yep.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Cool.
A little mini player economy. And then you can also do buy and sell orders. Like, I'm in port A and I have 12 defense materials, and there's no defense person here. I will sell those for $1,200 each. And then someone might buy them, but probably won't, I'll be blunt, because they also can't use them in that port. So they'd have to buy them, and then they'd have to haul them off somewhere, or create a contract to haul them from point A to point B. So, but there is a little bit of that aspect, but then the game is a little more grindy because you are chasing down all these different aspects of who can build what when. And other than that, the mechanics are basically the same as the first one. I think it's still worthwhile because if you have friends who are playing the game, you can actually help each other out by moving materials from point A to point B. And then finally, in Life in the Verse, RimWorld Steam release. I know since the very first one of these, God, what was it, a couple years back?
Is it actually out?
It is out on Steam as an early access title.
Oh, but then you said the EA word.
I did, but bear in mind, you also have played RimWorld and enjoy it. Yeah, and so the modding community...
I demoed it.
Okay.
But I think now that it's on Steam, I might pick it up.
I recommend it highly, and still do, and have for some time. Tinin Sylvester is the developer. It's a one-man show that has made this game, and I think it might be the best early access title I've ever played, regardless of the size of the development crew, and I'm including ARC in that just for reference.
Wow.
But he is a one-man show and does amazing work. It's Prison Architect in Space, for those of you who aren't familiar with it. And I highly recommend looking at the mods. The Bionics mod.
In Prison Architect is sort of an economic sort of simulator. I don't know how much story element to it, but it seems like the RimWorld is all about a narrative story generator. Like, one of the things that I really like from the Civilization series is you can create these little stories while you're playing. Like in Civ 5, if you're next to England and Elizabeth steals that gold right where you were about to settle your next city, she settles there, and now that starts a rivalry that will span through the ages. And you just and then she stole my worker, and then I took her city, and then we got ganged up on by this, so we got together. Like, it creates this ongoing narrative that can be different from game to game. That's what RimWorld is a lot like. We landed and we made we were really struggling because we had very few resources and a few people at the beginning, and then we built this nice colony and we had good defenses, but then we were attacked by these pirates and they knocked down our walls and destroyed our power, and it took us a while to get back. But we captured one, and I think you tortured him for information and all kinds of good stuff.
Or harvested all of his organs.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah. So I recommend, if you do it after you play a couple of vanilla games, look at the mods. I really like the hospitality mod because there is no point in that game to visitors visiting your colony.
Correct.
Period. However, the hospitality lets you try and actually that's the correct response. It's an early access game, but hospitality mod lets you try and you can make guest beds, you can set up a hotel, you can give them fine meals, you can woo them with drink, and then try to recruit them to your colony. So if they're worth it, you can do that. You can also trade now with the local caravans. And then the Bionics mod is nice because it lets you craft everything from a wooden peg leg to an advanced bionic eye. And so you can go with that. And of course, the best thing in the world is to watch your colony fall apart in the Dwarf Fortress style of fun when the same doctor, who's like a level 16 of 20 doctor, like 20 is, galaxy-wide expert, fails to install a bionic eye 3 times, not only wasting your resources, but really pissing off the guy whose surgery she has botched 3 times in a row. So when he gets up from the anesthesia, he grabs his axe and then just hacks her to death on the floor, creating a downward spiral that eventually wipes the colony out because your only doctor is dead.
Well then.
So that is the fun of RimWorld. I recommend it highly.
I can see now why you like watching things fall apart in Galaxy Trucker / Space
Run Galaxy.
Space Run.
Space
So
Trucker Galaxy.
recently, I have been involved in a lot of Hearts of Iron 4. You guys know this, and the game has a lot of issues in its default state that I'm not going to get into on this show, but I managed to kind of boil them down in my head as to what's wrong, so I created a mod that is in its very first iteration called the Perfect Storm Multiplayer Balance mod, and I put it up on the workshop for anybody that's interested. It's got all the changes listed in the changelog here and stuff, but I did want to highlight one comment that was left for me. Kevin L. says, "Hello, I see your mod. Inside a lot of things. Don't know if I want the sort of. My English is not very good. I'm looking for translation and your dialogue. Can detailed introduce the content of your mod?" And then he replies again a minute later, "I am like many people online and play against the AI." Okay. Very want to strengthening of the AI. Find some on the net, computer or feel too stupid, too slow of defending, or the defensive side, on the other side to miss, or forces are too stupid. Will not make dumplings or various tactics and don't know your mod contains these.
So, Bridger, what does Google Translate say he says?
I don't know what his original language is, but that has to be a Google Translate result, right?
Yes, it is.
But what did he say that caused it to spit out dumplings?
To quote the illustrious late Terry Pratchett, that comment was translated from Japanese to English by a Korean rice husker.
I see. Terry Pratchett. All right, so that's one of the things that I've been up to. I've also been working with Vin, or White Snake, from Legacy Fleet here, and he wanted me to point out that the Legacy Instructional Series is still alive and going strong. You can find it at imperialnews.network/LIS, or if you just search for Legacy Instructional Series on Google, I'm sure you'll find it right here. There's a lot of really great videos that that he's put together. His team is getting really good at animating all of these things, including a familiar voice that you might hear.
Spacecraft translation.
Would it be
Star
Bruiser
Citizen.
narrating? Because I don't want to hear that.
You don't?
Translation
I mean, I
refers to
hear
the
enough.
movement of an object.
All right. Well, there you go. So,
Damn it.
Legacy Instructional Series is really good. It's great specifically for people getting introduced to the game. If you need some help just understanding how the ships move through space, especially for people that aren't even familiar at all with like flight sims. Like at least if you're
Yes.
going from flight sim to space sim, you have some kind of reference for what's going on. But it really does help even if you're jumping from a flight sim to get an idea of what's different about space sims. So definitely check out the Legacy Instructional Series. That has been going along quite well. Okay, so that is that. We spent a little bit more time than expected on Life in the Verse, but a lot of stuff's been going on. And a lot of stuff's been going on in Star Citizen as well. We got a bunch of stuff here recently that's been released. So we've heard the German magazine is the one that talked about the 2.6 release giving us Star Marine. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed. This is the first that we've directly heard it would be Star Marine. Because Chris was teasing this, a month ago? Something that was supposedly dead is coming back, and
I have a
That which is
question.
dead cannot die. Oh, damn it. I hate Game of Thrones. How did that
Aside
even
from
slip
your
out?
Iron Price reference there,
Yeah.
is it really called German Magazine as we have disployed in the patch notes?
no.
German magazine, PC Gamer, publishes new info. There you go.
I looked at
Yeah.
that and thought, okay, that's awesome and that's funny. But
And Gamescom is going to have some...
It's PC Games. I think
Oh, it's PC Games?
PCGames.de,
Okay,
I
my
believe
bad.
is the
Yeah, and Gamescom is going to have some other cool stuff, so we'll probably maybe see some Star Marine and/or planetary landing station thing going on at
and-
Gamescom.
We
Okay.
will see planetary landing stuff demoed at Gamescom. Lando actually managed to confirm that for us. One of his posts. So it sounds like we will be seeing planetary landing demos playable at Gamescom, which is pretty cool.
Excellent.
I'm looking forward to that, or
Absolutely.
looking forward to seeing that. I'm not flying to Germany for that,
Yeah.
much as
So
I'd like to.
next up on the docket, I watched Around the Verse for the first time in a very long time, and because somebody said, "Hey, I like the new format," and I wanted to check out this new format because I was not a huge fan of the old one, and I really
Yes.
do like the new format a lot. There's a lot to be said for concision, and they don't need to make every show really long by packing it full of stuff nobody cares about. Like, I think that's
Unlike-
a good decision.
Unlike, say, a popular Star Citizen podcast.
Yeah, well,
You know,
do
I
as
actually
I
have to
say, not as I do.
The thing with the shows, it feels like it moved from being like a sprint stand-up for those of you who are coders.
Mm.
Basically, people just standing up and talking about what they're doing, whether or not it's really particularly eventful, to a sprint demo. There's a lot more information that has to come out and be a little more polished, specifically
actually-
for each of these shows. And I think that's what people really wanted when push
Yeah.
came to shove.
They want something you can actually look at, not just where we're at the moment.
Well,
Yep.
that's the thing is there's another chunk of people on the internet, and we'll get to them later on in this show, that are like, no, we need all the information right now. And then when they get it, it's like, this is not enough. Like, that's what there is. They can't
Yeah.
tell you about things that they haven't finished yet. The code has not yet been written, dude. Okay, we'll get to that. But anyway, I do like the briefer Around the Verse. I feel like I could watch it much more often if it's only 20 minutes than if it's like 40, 45 minutes
Yeah.
every time.
You can actually catch it on lunch break instead
Mm-hmm.
of having to actually, cut an hour out of your day to sit down and watch this. Not that I would say don't cut an hour out of your day to watch something on YouTube or Twitch or even live stream on Sundays.
Or listening to it on a podcast. All right, moving on in the interest of concision. I think, is that a word? I like that.
Yes.
I think I made that up.
Concision
but okay.
is a word. No,
Anyway.
you didn't make it up. It's been around
Come
for a
on,
couple
man,
hundred
I
years
need
now.
this. So, Ladies and gentlemen, multi-factor authentication is now a thing, and I have to say, I'm super surprised it came this soon. But at the same time, I'm super happy it came this soon, because one of the big criticisms of other games with any kind of value to their accounts is that they get multi-factor authentication only after some giant screw-up where like dozens of people or hundreds or thousands of people have had accounts stolen or hacked.
Wargaming.net looking at you.
Yeah. So for those of you that are not aware, multi-factor authentication is essentially a more secure version of an account where you need two things: something you know and something you have. Something you know is your password. So single-factor authentication is what you currently have on your Star Citizen account. And multi-factor means you also need to have something with you in order to log in. Usually that's a smartphone with an authenticator app built into it. It can also be an email. Just make sure you have multi-factor auth on your email if you use email for multi-factor authentication.
Yes.
And I know some people are concerned about doing it because it's, frustrating because I got to pull out my phone every time and type in this stupid thing. But you can make exceptions for the computer in your house. If you make an exception for the computer in your house but leave multi-factor auth for everything else, that means the bad guy has to either steal your phone or break into your house in order to get your Star Citizen account. Yeah. And if they're doing that, you're probably in concierge. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So that said, the code here expires about every 15 seconds, it looks like. So be fast when you type it. But I actually, when I saw this right before the show, I set this up. And it took me 90 seconds, including installing my QR code scanner. So it's worth doing. It's easy to do if you have a smartphone, you have an iPod, if you have an email account, which I'm assuming you do because you are an RSI user. Just do it. It makes your account that much more secure, and you're that much better off.
Just exempt your home computer. If you really don't want to deal with the passwords again, exempt your home computer. It is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you can exempt it for a year, right?
Yeah. Yep, that's what I did.
It takes a year is a long time.
This is
absolutely worth it.
It takes, like you said, 90 seconds to set up, and you'll thank yourself later when you get an email saying, "Hey, somebody tried to log into your account from another computer in China. Was that you?"
That sounds like my Guild Wars 2 experience, actually.
A lot of
like right
emails.
after. Yeah. Well, and in Guild Wars 2, I instantly set up the two-factor when they had it available. And within about 30 seconds of doing that, I swear to you, I have 4 attempts
really?
Of people logging in. It's like, were they already logging in? I didn't see anything stolen. No one charged anything. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, that's a little scary. But okay, so anyway, that's good. It's only good that it's here so soon and so fast. But now let's talk about the really cool thing that came out this week, and you've probably seen it around the verse, is atmospheric flight.
Man.
We're talking about how detailed this is going to be and how they're taking into account, density of air and the shape of the ship and how aerodynamic it is. And then,
so constellations just crash is what I'm hearing.
I assume, yes. Fly like a brick, I think, was a phrase that they used a number of times.
Really well.
I believe they definitely used fly like a brick.
We've been complaining about those VTOL engines sitting around on something like the Constellation or the Retaliator class ships, and now they actually have a use. If atmospheric flight is in the game, the 14 or 16 VTOL engines make sense because they create enough lift to actually get you off the ground.
Why does my Gladius have wings? Because it's in air.
Well, it can be in air. Some ships, I have to imagine, like the Idris, will just fall down.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if the Idris is going to be able to have atmospheric flight. You think?
I think you can. I think you can try it one time.
No, they've outright said that the Idris and the Jav will have atmospheric flight and landing.
I am amazed by that. The Bengal will not, though. Let's be clear.
No.
And I'm guessing that the one they're showing here now is the Aurora.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm guessing it just falls down,
and then it's turned on.
Yep.
So it does look like it's turning more like a plane a little bit, like it can use those surfaces at least a little
bit. Those wings, it can't have any lift. I don't say this is an aerospace
Well, they
engineer.
have VTOL engines on it. That's where they get the lift.
Really? There's VTOL on the Aurora?
I think there is, yeah.
VTOL's, the Aurora's got VTOL. Okay. It's not about lift on most of these things. The wings can help if they do actually provide lift. The majority of them, it's still just going to be maneuvering thrusters, keeping them in the air.
So
Yeah.
we're lucky. We don't have the current fighter jet problem of being effectively a point at the end of a very big thrust. Now it's you actually have the ability to stay upright from VTOL. You don't need that counterbalance. Okay. So it's more like a Harrier operating at speed.
Yep.
Which is terrifying in its own sense. I look forward to trying that out. That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was actually amazed at how detailed they say it's going to get, to the point where they're modeling like different densities of air, so you're going to have turbulence while you're flying.
To be fair, they needed to do that. If they were going to talk about making gas giants, if they were going to talk about making procedural weather, where you're going to have storms, which we've heard something about, mumblings, they have to figure out a way to make the air perform differently, or ouch, my immersion, right?
Well, I'll be honest, I wouldn't have noticed.
I mean, I probably wouldn't have noticed either, but they tend to take this fidelity up.
The other one that they mentioned is that they'll dynamically calculate the drag based on the shape of your ship. So if your wing gets blown off, the drag is different and it affects your handling. I mean, I knew, and it makes sense for them to go through all the work of modeling how your ship models in space, as far as, something's been damaged, like a thruster is damaged. That makes a lot of sense, because it would really be obvious to the player, like, hey, I lost the wing that had 3 thrusters on it, how come I can still fly perfectly well? And so it adds a lot of value. But for atmospheric flight, which is like this total secondary thing, to go to the detail of calculating the drag based on the shape of your ship as it is changing dynamically is insane.
That's not so hard.
It might not be hard. You might be right,
atmosphere.
but it seems really cool.
Now I actually want to be on a Starfarer doing a refuel mission. I want to see what it feels like to let that hook out with the little catch at the end to get the gas off the gas giant and hope like hell you don't crash. Gray, you're shaking.
Yes, that's the idea.
Okay, all right.
That's what it's
I see.
Be like
all right.
That's
That was
the entire
intentional.
experience of being on a Starfarer.
I want to see. Oh crap! We're falling! Oh crap! And is there an emergency disconnect on that refueler?
Maybe.
You mean you could just drop your tank so that you don't die in horrible, painful death?
Release! I will cover the cost later. All right.
Yeah.
This has a lot of potential to be really cool.
It is super cool. I'm not sure we're going to notice it too much actually playing the game, especially with automated landings in cities and that, but I look forward to it, especially doing the exploration part of the game.
Yeah, I can imagine, like, taking out the controls for, like, do automated landings most of the time. You're like, nope, this time I want to take control of this. Come on, let's see what we can do. And, like, just doing the equivalent of one of those drift into a parallel parking space maneuvers as you come down.
Man.
Like, I want to land in space combat mode. That's what I'm saying.
Well, let's be honest with ourselves. You might think, okay, I'm going to just come in, haul back, pull both sticks, and land nicely. But what you're going to do is this.
That's why you reinforce the landing gear, so that you could make it look way more interesting.
There's the new landing mechanic they're testing.
Okay, I've not seen that.
They mentioned it. I don't know if they mentioned. What are the details?
The details on this, to be fair, this is a leak apparently, as part of 2.5.
Okay, so it's an avocado leak.
It's an avocado leak. When you hit about 5 meters, I think is the height. Regardless of whether you're in manual or automatic landing mode, if you are in landing mode and you hit 5 meters off the ground, the ship will auto land you down slowly and carefully into the spot.
Okay, so they're going with the. I'll be honest, it's kind of the elite during beta, and maybe even currently. I've not played it for a while.
Yeah, even currently.
Where when you come in at the landing pad, you get real close, and it just grabs you and brings you in.
Yeah. The idea being that they were tired of people pancaking with half a meter to go.
Which is
like they go down
exactly
and down and down and slam into the ground.
It's all the people who have nothing but binary strafe on, and they didn't turn on landing mode, and they come in and they just go bam, and then they go flying off into nothing and die.
With their ship spinning and broken.
And it amazed me when Elite was still in beta. I put up a video. I didn't advertise it because I don't really use my channel that much on YouTube, but I have one with 2-stick landing Elite, and I got so many comments, more than I expected, because I came in, hit the landing gears, and got it. And it was like, What did you use? That's amazing. That's interesting. Okay, all right.
Non-binary strafe. That's
Exactly.
What,
Yeah, using two sticks makes it a lot easier to do that kind of thing.
For me,
Joystick Master Race.
I pull this up about every third show. I've got these little wheels up here.
Oh
If
yes,
you
the
turn
rollers.
this wheel, there's a center point on this where it sticks. This is my up and down non-binary strafe.
Mhm.
So all I have to do, there we go, right in front of the nameplate, is put this thing down just a touch, and I'm moving down at a consistent 2 meters per second until I pull it back up.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's just instant strafe. Then I've got left and right on the other one, so I can move around in circles. But yeah, it's definitely worth it to have non-binary inputs. Precision mode goes a long way, but it's not quite enough, and I think that's where we're going to see this 5-meter auto land take over.
Mm.
So for folks that are really good at the manual landing, I mean,
I still wouldn't bother. I'll be blunt.
there's probably going to be some way to disable that.
I'm sure there is, but there's a risk of destroying your ship versus not. I mean, I've got a 10-month-old and a 5-year-old. I understand that sometimes little hands reach up and grab that control surface and yank on it, even if you're not using it right that second.
Is that?
Yeah, that's
that
what's been
happens.
happening.
Yeah,
Well, I've not
believe
lost
you.
a ship yet, but
As a small aside, does anybody think the ship, what is it? They call it the ship matrix is getting a little big.
out of date. Oh,
That's the idea, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean the interface is getting more and
Oh,
more
I gotcha.
difficult to find what you want. Like they need to start adding categories like hauler, dogfighter,
Don't they?
whatever. I don't think so.
That was in there.
I'll be
I mean,
blunt.
they have categories,
I've
but
had
you
a hard
can't
time-
filter by them. Is what I mean.
I've had a
I
hard time
gotcha.
using it for a while, but that's me, and I was only trying to compare like a bunch of ships at once.
Yeah,
Once
that
you
gets
get
a
past
little
about
difficult.
4 ships, you're out of space. But then again, you're only doing that during sales, and honestly, you either want the ship or you don't. You know that even before you look at the stats.
Well, geez,
If
there's
you're
so
like
many
me,
damn
go for
ships
impulse
now. I'm
buys.
trying to remember which one is which, and it's the Carrack is the one that I want. That's every week I have to go back and say which was the one that I want. Was it the Carrack? Yeah, it was the Carrack. No, it was the Vanguard. It was definitely the
That's still the
Vanguard.
one.
No. I think it was the Reliant because I really
Sen.
like
You're
the.
telling me you need all of them.
Yeah, it turns out
That's
I
what
actually
I'm-
need all of
But
them.
wait,
so.
which Reliant? I guess is the question, because you've got the
You
Core,
got
the
the
Mako,
Ford.
the Sen, the Tana.
Yeah.
And
Ah,
already,
jeez, I don't
you're
know.
like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Now that said, I have not bought a ship in a long time.
I'm not sure I could ever justify purchasing an in-game news van. I don't think I can do that.
Who knows? Maybe one day.
Although I
they'll-
technically
they'll-
have chosen a truck, I guess, in the Hull
The
B,
freelancer.
right? That's like
Oh,
a
okay.
U-Haul?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought of the space pickup as the freelancer.
Yeah, well, I
Kind
guess
of.
I have that too,
Well,
strapped with
But then where does the merchantman fall into that? Because it's not the whole. I think it's about comparable to the whole B in size, right?
It's the giant creepy van.
Yes. Finally, I have my panel van that I can drive around neighborhoods.
Well, it's definitely not an 18-wheeler. All right, anyway, enough of this. I went on the wrong tangent here. Let's get back
no,
to...
you're fine.
The other thing that's worth noting about the landing, just real quick, they are adding manual landing mode toggle.
Uh-oh.
So when you start looking at, say, the Cartual or the
the Reliant?
Reliant, there we go.
Yeah.
You will actually have a button to change between modes. You'll hit N, I think is the new thing, and
think
it
that's
will shift you properly. So
Right,
it'll let
because
play
you
around
have
in
to
landing mode
be
if you really want to.
yeah, because you don't want to be in B-wing mode when you're going down to land. So
Yeah, that'd
that's
be bad
important.
news.
So
I love it, and it's gonna bite me in the ass. I know that already.
I do want the Reliant. It looks so cool. But yeah, I'd probably get the Skirmisher one because Skirmisher. Anyway, the sky is leaking is what somebody put down here. What is it? Evocati is the actual term for the testers
Yes.
that are testing these builds ahead of the public, even ahead of the public test realm. So
But as a
Well-
loyal Californian, we're gonna promote avocado consumption.
PTU, Public Test Universe. I got my
Yes.
Blizzard
okay.
mixed in
Don't
there.
worry about it.
So yes. Anyway, we did have the notes officially put out, and I love that the notes are in, sort of in fiction mode. I'm very happy that we'll see that, and I hope that continues all the way through once we get to the game. Like you don't officially accurately necessarily know what was added. Like, changes can be very clear, like, oh, well, such and such manufacturer has tuned the such and such gun, and it's now going to be more efficient, or more this or more that. They can sort of more or less give discrete stuff in their notes about balance type changes, because they can do that in fiction really easily. But if they add a new planet somewhere, or a new system, or a new something else, they need to let people explore to find it. And maybe adding just a hint that there was some kind of something detected on the outer rim of place, why, then I think that's really valuable.
A navigational anomaly near the Arc Core station, something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see that that's the way that they've been taking the patch notes, and I want to continue to see that. So, all right. Anyway, the details about the different things that we got in here that have been so far interesting. Grimhex. Is that the pirate base where people are going to have their pirate hangar as well?
It's where wanted players spawn.
I'm very happy to be wrong on this. I thought that Grimhex was going to be the Nyx landing zone moved into the system. And as it turns out, the Nyx landing zone is in fact going to be its own thing that they move in during probably 2.7 or something like that. So this is a much smaller custom procedurally generated thing that they made. Grimhex is its own thing. It's not part of Nyx. It's a thing they made specifically to say, let's test making small bases. Really, really cool. Just this idea that they would have smaller bases already taking off is like, oh, let's see how the art takes on this. Let's see how long it takes to build something like this.
Fair enough.
It sounds like from the 2.5 patch notes there are some collision issues and rendering issues on the walls and all that, but I would expect no less for the first time that they made a custom tiny asteroid base.
Yeah. Now, that said, on the social side of things, I'm curious how the testing of Grimhex is going to go. You're all wanted players. No real reason not to kill each other. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean?
Yeah, it's weapons locked right now.
Okay.
From their leaked videos on YouTube, because people checked out the issue council, and the issue council has no special place for 2.5 reports
Yet.
So people are posting 2.5, or avocados are posting 2.5 bug reports, complete with YouTube videos showing the bug.
So we're getting a buggy view of 2.5. Look how crappy this build is, guys. That's all we're getting.
It's been able to show things like weapons lock is in fact active inside, but not outside. The moment somebody clipped through a wall and went flying out, the weapons lock turned off.
I also note, they've got the guy who leaked the patch notes leaked everything. Do not spawn a Constellation or Retaliator. We are aware that Grimhex has a few residual issues with gravity pockets. Gravity pockets? What? You're spawning in a big ship and suddenly it just crashes in on itself?
No, but everything sticks to the
crashes
hole.
up into the roof.
Up into the roof, yeah, exactly. That's an interesting possibility. Okay.
Subnautica grab collector. You want to collect wanted players? They just spawn a constellation. They stick to the hole. You fly away and turn them in.
Yeah, fly towards the sun. Okay, so yes, there's a new spawn point there. That's going to be I think somebody confirmed it's going to be inside of an asteroid. Of course, that's where a pirate base has to be if you're building your very first pirate base. Because what are you going to do? Build it on a nice moon that somebody's going to settle on later? No, that's not.
I'd like it on a Caribbean island personally.
That wouldn't be bad if it were the 1400s. Or, 1500s, I guess. Maybe 1600s.
There's rum.
Where's the rum gone? So, we got the Reliant. The Argo is coming. We kind of have some information ahead of time on this, thanks to the leaks. It's the snub ship from the Idris and the Javelin. Not a fighter, though. It's the Argo transports cargo, and that's how you know, I guess. It's a passenger ship too, a little shuttle that goes back and forth.
Yep.
So this thing is the ship we saw on the Morrow Tour. Someone has pointed out from the Morrow Tour and then from 2.5 leaked screenshot from the issue council that it looks like the Javelin escape pods are the passenger pod on the Argo. or
Interesting.
something very similar.
Makes sense. They would
So-
reuse assets both from a game perspective and from a real life perspective. Thanks,
it
Henry
actually
Ford and
means-
replaceable parts.
It's quite possible that the Argo passenger variant is just the standard Argo hull with a crew pod, like an escape pod, latched into the back.
Good to know. It's just in case the ship goes down. Don't worry, we're in an escape pod.
And the cargo variant just doesn't have the escape pod there. It has cargo boxes.
Yep. It's
Huh.
pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah.
All right.
It isn't officially announced as far as like the sales and everything, but I would expect them to sell this probably around Gamescom, along with whatever their next big ship is.
Seems like
I can't imagine the Argo is going to be hugely popular. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It won't even be an arena commander. They've outright said it won't have guns.
All right. So, that all
Speed.
having been said, we're definitely anxiously waiting to see what happens. When is Gamescom? Let's see.
Oh, soon.
Soon. Is it going to be in
Couple weeks.
August or is it going to be in September?
Soon.
It's August.
It is August. Okay, so
It's
by
like
the
a week or
next
two from now.
the next show that we have. How do you go to the Gamescom website and not have any date right there on the
It's-
front?
8/18, 8/19,
DEF
8/20, and 8/21.
Okay,
For reference,
so yes.
DEF CON is just as bad about that. It seems you go to the site and have to dig around for a date.
If you just search for the word Gamescom,
Okay, so it's
And
the
you look at
weekend
Google.
before the next Tales of Citizen show, which is perfect. We'll have a week to digest the news, and then we'll talk about it on the 28th of August. So that's right.
Yeah.
We're back to the monthly. Well, not back to. We're continuing the monthly shows here. So if you want to catch us again live, 8:28 at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Sound Strategy Network YouTube channel, or also on Bridger15 on Twitch. Go ahead and subscribe if you are interested in checking that out. But for now, we will go to the last piece of the show, which is the concern of the week. Although this week I am concerned because there are two very different threads on Reddit that were sort of near the top of the subreddit recently, and one of them gets it, and the other one doesn't get it. And I'll let you decide. So,
All right.
the first one, probably a lot of people have seen these, but I thought I'd highlight them for the people who hadn't, because there's a very interesting perspective from somebody who does code, and he describes something called technical debt, which is if you're in software development, including games development, and you're coming across a problem. You want to implement some kind of a feature or task or something, and you know the right way to do it is gonna take X number of days, X number of hours, X number of weeks, whatever, and somebody else is waiting on you to finish that thing before they can start their thing, because there's all these things all fit together, and throwing more manpower doesn't help because these four things are dependent upon that system getting this new hook built into it, etc., etc. So, as a result, a very, very common thing in software development is to just take some sort of quick shortcut that is not the best solution, but it is a compromise on speed in order to essentially continue with the project and not hold it up any longer. And what this author's saying is that when CIG is faced with a situation of, okay, compromise and patch it later to be correct, or rewrite the code now, taking an extra 3 months to make sure it's correct the first time, and we'll never have to come back to it again, and when it launches, it'll be good and working, and there won't be any bugs or issues that anybody notices. They almost always, well, at least so far as we know, they always seem to take the rewrite the code and take 6 months to make sure it's done right the first time, instead of just putting it off to later and having to pay the piper with patches after the game is launched, which is basically every other game in development, even from the good developers. That seems to be the case. I mean, we were just talking earlier about how Overwatch seems to have hitbox issues, despite the fact that it's from one of the most polished games developers out there. Everybody always said, "Whoa!" When Hearthstone came out, it was very impressive, and it's got all this polish. And then Overwatch is the same way, but you have a bunch of issues with it because maybe it wasn't done right the first time. Maybe there was a dog in the background distracting the coder.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I thought that was fairly insightful, is that the reason that it's taking so long is because they're doing it right the first time. That is an explanation. Okay. What's the other explanation? Well, this guy points out that They wrote up all these design documents, and most of them are over a year old. Some are 3 or 4 years old. How come we haven't seen any results from these documents? How come we don't know anything more about Death of a Spaceman or the Star Citizen economy? None of these things have been implemented. So where's all that stuff?
Answer his own question.
Yeah, it's not implemented yet. All of this stuff depends upon stuff that depends upon stuff that depends upon stuff. And the author of this thing says, they're spending too much time balancing the combat system. No,
oh dear God.
They're finishing the game engine before they can put any features into it. They're putting one feature in at a time. Like, I think Grabby Hands is probably going to come next. Like, they got Item 2.0 and they got all this other stuff. But then you're not going to get, like, electronic warfare and mining and civilian passenger transport until you've really finished nailing down the netcode and everything. Because all this other stuff depends upon the base code of the game engine. Once that's there, you can write all the features you want.
Besides, you need Grabby Hands before you can get to Death of a Spaceman.
No, that's not true in at least one universe.
Fair enough.
You can do it from a distance, that's all I'm saying.
You know, seeing all this stuff, the guy is basically complaining with a long list. Well, what's the... how long ago was this written? That's his whole argument here. He says that the problem in his post is that all of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 posts that he deemed fit to list here should have been giving us consistent updates on, like, well, what have we done to change mining in 524 days? And the answer to that question is probably nothing, because mining itself, as noted, is so dependent on other systems. I have an issue with someone feeling that they're entitled to see updates on every specific design post. Something about that just rubs me wrong. It feels like a level of entitlement on, oh, well, I haven't heard anything about repair in 253 days. Well, but does your ship get repaired when you land at Cryastro? Is that not an update to start saying?
That's true.
This is the first time we've seen that?
Yeah, I mean, they've already iterating on a lot of things. They talked about Item System 2.0. They talked about Spaceman Health 2.0, right? So instead of healing your spaceman, the one that he points out is written 616 days ago, that's already kind of in. 2.0 is going to have more discrete damage systems for the body parts. Like if your arm gets hit, it's going to affect your aim. If your leg gets hit, it's going to affect your speed, et cetera, et cetera.
Like MobiGlass, written 545 days ago. Yet here we are with updated MobiGlass that's doing mission tracking in Port Olisar.
Yeah. So it's coming along. It's not done yet, which appears to be the main complaint of the thread. None of these systems are done. Well, fair enough.
Well, no, it's not even that. He's asking why isn't there more information? And my answer is there's not. I mean, there is about the ones that we discussed, but for the other ones, like mining, there's no information about mining because they haven't started it yet.
You can't mine yet.
You can't mine yet. They when they work on these, they'll get us the information. But if you keep demanding information when there's no updates to be made, you're gonna get shitty shows like the old ATV that was just filled with updates that are basically. We fixed a few bugs, but nothing else really interesting. Like that's nobody wants that.
And you start talking about, let's say, mining. That's procedural tech.
That's true. Procedurals making it easier to get there.
Mining on planets and mining in asteroids. Well, I haven't heard any updates on mining. Well, have you seen the planet they're making? Have you seen the mining ship that they built, the Misk Prospector, that's specifically oriented for mining on planets and large surfaces? I feel like this person is looking to just complain that they haven't updated specific articles, but I can guarantee you it's not because they're too busy focusing on combat. You go talk to the people on the forums who are complaining about the lack of balance on specific weapons or on missiles crashing Arena Commander or insert your issue of the month here. They're going to claim that CIG is not balancing combat well enough because they're spending too much time doing everything else.
Yep. I don't know. It's hard to answer these kinds of questions if you're CIG because people want to see the progress and they expect progress at a
Well,
faster pace, in a sense,
we-
because other games don't reveal. This is one of the things that I was suggesting. Was I don't know if I talked about this in a previous show, but what I expect to happen is we're going to see all these disparate elements that have been having sort of the foundation built. All of them start to come together at a much more rapid pace in the next year or so. Now that we have the persistent universe, the baby persistent universe, all of these things that have been working on in the background are slowly going to start to take shape, and it's going to get more interesting and accelerated because they've been working out the base problems for a long time now. And theoretically, if what we were talking about before is they've done it right the first time, all that will accelerate the process towards the end.
And I have to say, if somebody's incredibly interested in learning about electronic warfare or mining or cargo or something else, they should reach out to a dev. They should try to talk to somebody at CIG about getting a studio tour, about something. Because very, very specific information about systems that quite simply can't exist until the prerequisites exist, you need to be talking to the specialist. You need to be talking to the people who are very, very interested in building that system. Because the vast majority of players, they're not going to want to really hear about electronic signatures of a particular ship and how that's being tuned.
Until it's in, and
Until
then
it's
they
in.
care. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the ATV thing, just like Bridger was saying, all over again. Well, do people really care about this one tiny bug on, I don't know, Moby-Glass? No, not really. They don't really want a bug report on that.
But there are so many demands for information that they're like, okay, we'll give them what's available. Like, there you go. And then people didn't like what they got because their expectations are wrong, right? That's where it comes down to. Is if you're expecting something and you get something different, that's where all tension in the world comes from. So if you just reset and lower your expectations, you'll always be surprised. Pleasantly surprised, or at least you'll be right. At least you'll be right. That's your
Advice. Advice to those of you who are out there dating: lower your expectations. At least you'll be right.
She's never gonna go out with me. Hey, you want to go out with me? No.
No.
Well,
See?
at least I
That's
was
what I
right.
expected, and I'm still disappointed.
Yeah.
No, ultimately, with the complaint about things they aren't updating, they will. It's not ready yet. When it's ready, it'll be in. And like Ray said, if you're super curious and need that answer right now to not use it for anything, Ask a Dev is the place to go.
Yep.
True enough. Yeah, I've gotten some answers in there when I had questions like how to pronounce. Was it the Xi'an? I think it was Xi'an. We had the question.
Xi'an,
about.
yeah.
Anyway.
How do you pronounce this?
I do want to point out the guy that was talking about the various game mechanics and stuff. He was doing it in a constructive criticism way. I don't mean to say that he's like one of the threads that we have pointed out in the past, where it's like exactly hyperbole, hyperbolic, and just whiny. Right? He's right. He's written this out in a very common and very constructive way. I just don't think he's right.
Fair.
I don't want to say that this person is, one of the problems, so to speak, that we've heard in the past. And he did do an edit recently saying, he's been cited by Derek Smart as evidence that something is wrong with the game. And he wants nothing to do with that.
Wow.
Good on him for saying, that's crap. Please don't include me in your critique.
That is the epitome. So I have a policy in real life and online, which tells you it's a universal policy.
Those are the only two places in the world.
If I have a position on something and someone whom I feel has no value agrees with me, I have to rethink my position, no matter how right I feel I am. And that's the embodiment of that policy. It's kind of like saying, okay, I'll give an example in this show. If I have a belief and then Bridger agrees with me, I have to rethink that. Would be an example. Not that I
like that policy. I'm happy to be a part of it. Let's do it. See, the problem there was informing me of that policy. Now I can use it against you in a court of.
I don't actually use it with you in mind, but I'm summing it up for the viewer at home to use it with you in mind.
But with that in mind, I still feel that this person's perspective is a little skewed. Calling it a major problem that we haven't gotten a specific update on on Death of a Spaceman. Like, we haven't gotten a very specific, this is an update to Death of the Spaceman as written, whatever this day was. That's not necessarily a problem. And I feel like trying to call out CIG, which is what he's doing here. He's trying to call out CIG for not specifically updating a specific topic in a way that he finds to be sufficient. That's not really a healthy way to go into handling this alpha development. No matter what he does, as you've noted, he's going to be disappointed. He's not going to get the sort of communication he wants because this is software and because of the things underlying the systems.
Actually, thinking about it, what he really wants is the one-on-one communication you get from Ask the Devs or Ask the Developer, or when Chris Roberts does his podcast and has it in there. But we all submit to that thread of like 10,000 questions if we have a question. And then they pick the ones they can actually answer. And they still won't answer them at mining because it's not ready yet. So they can't really talk about it. Not that they've ever refrained from talking about things they can't talk about yet, but
But yeah, you can't expect that level of detail, that level of Ask the Dev detail, just about like very minute things that they're trying to work on, to exist in these big documents.
Well, let me play devil's advocate and work from the other side here. These people, obviously, even some other people in this thread, excuse me, are being constructively critiquing. So anyway,
there you go.
They're being constructive. They're saying, so I've been a backer. I have been, for a long time. I know that this was going to take a long time, but I really thought we'd see more of this by now. So let me ask you guys, at what point are you going to feel worried about this project if you don't see an acceleration in the amount of features coming online in every, say, half-year cycle? Because right now it's not a huge amount. If it keeps going at the current pace, the game's not going to be done until 2020 or 2021 in terms of just getting a basic framework online.
That's a misnomer right there. Because what you just said is if the game continues at the current pace.
Well, hang on. That's my point. Let's just take this because it's been going on.
Current pace, as you're naming it, is full-fledged feature release on the front end.
Yep.
Well, so what you're saying is we're not seeing all the stuff that's happening in the back end until it comes out as a feature.
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, you shouldn't. If you're pushing code that's non-functional to the end user, and I say this from years of experience, it will go horribly wrong when something that you don't intend to interact happens. So you put something out there, whenever you ship code off to the end user, you are saying this is prime time and ready. And if it's not, you've just sunk yourself. So I don't expect to see anything until you can actually get in there and use it.
And for all intents and purposes here, we are non-technical end users of their product.
True.
Nobody here is saying, I'm going to open up Star Citizen and I'm going to type 10 lines into the console in order to load into Port Olisar. And I'm going to type in 6 more to open the cockpit. No, you're going to walk up and you're going to hit F. Or you're going to walk up and you're going to use the new little interactions panel that they have, and that'll open the cockpit for you.
You're not coding Lua on the fly, making an assumption about their front end code.
Let me get back to my question. Hypothetically, if the pace continues as it has, where we get, one major patch with a few, sort of minor improvements, maybe one big new feature release like Star Marine type thing a year, and maybe 1 or 2 other big patches each year that have some decent improvements on things. If that's the pace, then we're not going to see what everybody expects Star Citizen to be by the time, the next 2 or 3 years roll around. At what point do you guys think you would get worried about the project actually succeeding or being too ambitious?
I have an easy answer for that, actually. At each of these game shows, if they don't have a big announcement from this point forward, I'm worried that it's because they weren't able to either technically deliver or they don't have anything further to add. So when we go to like E3, they were at E3 recently, and now I guess
No,
CitizenCon.
they didn't go to.
They didn't go to E3. They did CitizenCon, the one in LA. So they had some big announcements. They had some big changes. They had the 2.4 coming out, which we now have for ourselves. 2.5 is coming next. If you go to these big shows and you have nothing to show for your effort to justify the cost, you're treading water. That would be my view on it.
So you're thinking if they go to the show because they feel like they have to, that's a problem.
Yes, exactly right. It means that they know they're behind at that point. But when you gave money to this project, as all of us in this chat most likely did, you've basically said, "I'm trusting you to deliver something." And you've given me this laundry list of things, and I want a product I can actually use. At the Kickstarter, it was Squadron 42. Now it's this persistent universe, and then after persistent universe, we've got atmospheric flight and all of that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see Squadron 42. I want to see persistent universe. When they have things like atmospheric flight, that tells me they realized they needed that for something that they promised already they're going to deliver to work correctly.
All right, Gray,
in this case, I think
your
it's
thought?
planets. That's my level of concern, or what would be my level of concern, would be that if we start seeing delays to full star systems, that would be where I would start saying I'm a little concerned about the project.
To
because
full stars? What do you? I don't understand what you mean.
So,
there.
like the full Stanton system.
Oh, to full systems. Okay, I see.
Full systems.
All right.
So if we're talking about right now, they're saying they want to have the full Stanton system playable by what, like early next year, I think is the current plan. If we start seeing major delays in them rolling out full systems, regardless of how many people are in that system, I'm going to completely avoid that whole landmine of people asking about how many start in it. My concern is actually about the ability to translate the technologies that they are clearly working on right now, and they are clearly completing right now, and translating those into full functional at-scale systems that, or whatever the scale is, at-scale systems that will make up the majority of their gameplay. We're at a point now where Olisar has been around for not quite a year, and 2.0 released for the masses in December, right?
Yeah.
We need to see the next scale increase. I think that's where my concern is, or would be, rather. It isn't even is. We're seeing it already.
Yeah.
But my concern would be if we didn't see the continuous scale increase year over year for at least the next 2 years. So this year we would see the completion of Stanton, or near completion of Stanton, and next year I would expect to see at least one other full star system in play.
So you're saying 2018 will have how many star systems in play?
Let's see, it's 2016 now?
It is July 2016. Oh, August 2016 now.
Okay, so say 2017 we have one system at that point,
one full system. Yeah.
At the beginning of 2017.
And of the promised 100 systems at release.
Right.
I mean, I would say at least by 2018, I would expect them to have ironed out enough kinks to have maybe 5 to 10.
Okay. So my hope in that same time frame is that 2018 is a release with the 100 star systems.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I think that would be
the only way that works is if they
order
really
of magnitude difference.
Yeah,
they'd have to really nail the procedural generation stuff, right?
Yes.
Which once they get that tied in, it's going to be just leaps and bounds of progress.
Yeah, and end of 2018, if they didn't have 10 star systems by the end of 2018, which would mean the ability to continuously chunk them out, because that would mean in a year they managed 10 systems.
Yeah.
I might start getting a little worried about how are they going to generate the rest of this content.
But then in your mind, what is a legitimate release point?
You see, that's the question.
You know what they can do?
I asked it. I just asked that question.
Yeah, I think that's really the question when it comes down. What is a legitimate release point? If we're talking about 2020 as the full game release, I would call that a pretty delayed project.
Yes.
That's an
At that
8-year long development period.
See, what we
Yeah.
really need to do is we need to go back and watch our initial release projections.
Oh no!
Because I know Bridger said like 2015, and I think I said
Uh,
2016 or 2017.
I'll tell you.
And
I'll tell you my answer to that question. I am a little worried that they still haven't fixed the very laggy feeling of moving around. It's been that
Okay.
way since Alpha 0.8, and I'm kind of concerned that has not either it's not been on their priority list, or it's not been something they've been able to fix yet.
the
I'm
laggy
hoping.
feeling
I'm hopeful.
of ships?
The
Or
laggy feeling of movement outside of a ship.
Okay, EVA, got it.
In just walking around, and even in your hangar, like when you're not
Okay.
connected to a network theoretically, like it just feels jerky and laggy. And I know
See,
that some of that
control
is the
pivot.
idea of there's supposed to be acceleration and deceleration when you're moving. But I don't feel like they nailed that feeling yet. Instead, it just feels like the game is wrong rather than
See-
I'm accelerating and decelerating.
To me, it feels like the difference between Quake and Unreal Tournament back in the day. Like Unreal Tournament always felt a little slower on the inputs than Quake ever did.
Yeah,
and as Zan mentioned in chat here, they haven't gotten the base character models done yet.
so you
They're
think
still
it's an
working on some of that.
animation issue rather than a technical
Probably.
network netcode issue?
It
That would
gets your
probably be
input.
part of it, yeah.
Because it certainly
Because
feels
if
a
you're-
lot worse in Port Olisar than it does in the hangar, and that's why I think it's a netcode issue. And I would be willing
But
to
you've
bet,
mentioned specifically in the hangar it felt bad.
but it feels worse in Port Olisar, and that's
But that's a compounding issue.
I agree with you.
That's
It's definitely
fine.
a compounding issue.
Two
But
different systems.
for a game that's pretty much, I mean, except for Squadron 42 going to exist online, you need to make the netcode feel as if you're on a LAN, like many other games do. Like when you play Counter-Strike,
Yeah.
I mean, Valve basically completely pioneered the concept of lag compensation and making the player feel like they're on a LAN even if they're lagging. With a 200 ping, that's got to be in there.
Yeah.
It's a very important thing to make the player feel like they're not lagging at all. So that having been said, I am hopeful that 2.6 bringing with it Star Marine will mean that they feel like they've solved the first-person lagginess issue to the point where now combat mechanics can be enjoyable with it.
We'll have achieved Quake.
Will have achieved Quake, exactly. So that is my hope. Now, seeing that Star Marine is finally on the horizon, then they've probably taken the time to prioritize and work on making those controls feel tighter. Because I have to say, I've never felt like the controls in the ships were ever that laggy. That seems to have been their priority.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, this is in the end, Star Citizen is Wing Commander. It's the spiritual successor.
Sure.
So the ships are going to have to be the showcase.
And I even knowing that, even when I was walking around in my hangar, it still made me feel like I don't want this. I don't want to play this game.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
even
I
told the front of my brain was going, "Shut up. It's not even done yet. Why do you care?" And the back of my brain is like, "This isn't fun." And I'm like, "We're not even in the ship yet. We're just walking to the ship. Stop doing that." And it's just like
Wow.
I can't avoid my brain feeling that
And the
inconsistency.
The head
much-
stabilization, that was something that a lot of people have said has really ruined their ability to run around in first person.
Okay, so I've not heard of the head bob as you walk.
So,
yeah.
head stabilization is coming. They're going to add the ability to deal with that.
No longer will the camera follow the eye directly of the animation. It's going to be a single point. Yeah.
And no longer will it jerk forward and back when you stop or anything like that. Because your character's head does, in fact, jerk forward and back when you stop sometimes.
I
Yes.
don't mind that for unusual circumstances, like if you're thrown to the ground due to an explosion or you're knocked backwards because somebody kicks you. Like those situations, having your view go wonky makes total sense, even from a balance perspective. But if it's just doing it just by moving around, you're right, that is very frustrating and annoying. Having those effects occur rarely to great effect is much more valuable than having them occur all the time and be frustrating.
Yeah. I agree with that. Well,
All right, so that all having been said, any final comments from you guys or from the chat here?
Looks like Twitch, we have Shadow Spear saying he doesn't agree. He's a combat veteran and can tell you right now to get moving quickly with 100 plus pounds of gear that you're not at your full speed quickly. Also,
Yes.
consider
No.
most
I'm
games.
totally on board with the idea of I may have misspoken earlier. I'm totally on board with the idea that Star Citizen's going for with a more tactical approach, with the idea that you have to accelerate before you can get up to full speed, and you have to decelerate before you can stop, as opposed to being like instantly almost up to full speed in like a quarter second and stopping it on a dime, like in Counter-Strike, etc., etc. I'm totally on board with that concept, but it has to feel to the player like the character is responding instantaneously. So you have to feel the acceleration right away, even if you don't get to top speed right away. As soon as I hit go, I should be visibly able to tell that I'm starting to move already. And right now, it just feels like there's a quarter to a half a second lag between when I want to start moving and when it appears that I'm starting to move. And I think that's what really I'm feeling, not just that the animation is too slow.
Although to address the comment directly, 100 pounds of gear, it is a lot, and you do not start moving. But in the hangar, you've got on what amounts to a Mylar flight suit.
Right.
So it's like 2 ounces of gear, plus a helmet. That said, when they bring in like the heavy armors and that, I really look forward to seeing how they handle input delays and limitations and all that, because you're wearing this like super bulky, exoskeleton from Aliens body armor style thing.
They got the heavy
and then
armor.
Yeah, then you're trying to clamp onto the controls and pilot using that with the extra joystick lag. It will be really interesting to see how they accomplish that. I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. That would be the 100 pounds of gear equivalent.
Yeah, you just got to put a Vive or an Oculus on your head so that every time you try to turn your head, your neck gets a cramp because you got this heavy thing on your head.
You're not buying either of those if you're in the UK at the moment, apparently.
Why is that?
Well, Brexit has caused a price increase in the Vive, and the rumor is the Oculus is also going to go up.
Really? Oh, because the pound fell.
Because the sterling has fallen, yep.
I see.
Interesting.
Which also would be a great Tom Clancy novel, The Sterling Has Fallen.
Wow.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, it might very well be time to end on that particular note. By the way, Tom Clancy, if you'd like to use that, we're going to copyright the name. It's actually not what you can do to things like that. We could trademark the name, but...
Tom Clancy's still alive? Hold on. Kidding.
Why do you have is it the entirely opposite? You have like a Google alert anytime Tom Clancy's mentioned anywhere on the internet so you can follow his every work?
I mean, he and Stephen King.
Fair enough. Is Stephen King still alive?
Ludlum died, I know that.
No, see, how come when I troll you it doesn't work? That's not fair. All right, but that having been said, thanks for tuning in, guys. We are basically done here. We're done here, I think is what it comes down to.
Good exit.
We've been vamping for a while, and now it's time to get out.
But were we out on time? That's the real question.
Less than an hour and a half, so I'm going to say yes.
Yes! All right.
Less than an hour, right? No, less than an hour and a half, you're right.
No.
Yeah.
Less than 90-minute show means we did our concision properly. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with.
We'll be better. We've only had 41 tries at this. We'll be better, I promise.
Yeah, that's all. Well, that's the show. Star Citizen, here we go. Tales of Citizens will be better.
See ya.
Sorry, I forgot to play the music through the thing so you guys
outro?
could hear that
It's
I was
okay.
playing the music. So I
It's
just
all
muted
right.
you randomly. So it's all good.
No music.
So now that you
It's
told me that
okay.
RimWorld is on Steam, I have to go and
Oh yes, buy it.
But here's the problem: I'm gonna get
hate you.
stuck in that game forever, and
Oh, no,
then
it's
No
worse than
Man's
that.
Sky is coming out next week, and
I
I still
can't
have
help you
Hearts of
there.
Iron, and
I can't help you with any of that. I can only tell you that RimWorld is out, and in the time I've had it on Steam, I have 43 hours in it. Hours where I should have been sleeping, I admit, but hours in it.
Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's problematic.
And like the story I described to you is exactly the story that occurred in RimWorld, and I keep wanting to get back into Stellaris, but haven't been.
Yeah, I mean, it's only going to get better, but even with 1.2, I've been having a lot of fun with it. There's a couple of really interesting mods that I've been playing with. But I'm waiting, because I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of really cool mods out there for that, too.
Undoubtedly. And RimWorld has a ton of them that are converting to Steam as well. And I've also noticed, Tynan Sylvester is the guy that does the development. He's really good about making updates to it. But with it on Steam, he has doubled down on making updates as fast as possible.
I don't doubt it. I mean, he's doing a lot of. He's been working on that game for a long time.
Yes, he has. All right,
The Babylon 5 project for Stellaris. I'll be clicking.
It's a clickbait.
Oh
time.
my!
Added playable races, flags, custom portraits, customized fallen empires, AI-controlled minor races, and much more.
That makes a lot of sense. No, there you go. We need to do our Babylon 5 multiplayer at some point then.
Yeah, definitely.
For some reason, Cthulhu became the Shadows.
Uh-oh.
I actually used to play that. I know very little about Babylon 5. I watched the first season and that was it. Well, maybe I got the second season in too. But I played the hell out of the card game that came out with a bunch of friends who were super into Babylon 5. And I always played as the minor races, and yet somehow I was always terrifying the table.
Well, there's game balance for you. All right, I am going to call it a night here, guys.
Okay.
Thanks for watching.
You go to bed.
Well, no, I think I'm going to go to RimWorld.
Oh, well, there's that. So you're not going to go to bed until about 4 a.m.
Yeah, well. All right, have a good one, everybody.
See you later.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Bye.